Good morning, this is Stephen with Gospel Nomad, and I'm here again still in Naga City in the Philippines, and I want to touch bases on unconditional love. And for that, I'm bringing us over to Hosea chapter 1. And actually the whole book of Hosea, but and I'll skim over Hosea a little bit. But let's start in chapter 1, verse 1. And really, as I studied this, it showed me a different perspective on the book of Hosea. You know, where the main thought is God is showing Israel through this relationship about how they are treating God and how they are leaving God, and God's not leaving them. But as I read it and started looking at and remembering other parts of the Bible, you look at it and see God isn't only talking to Israel. He isn't only talking to Hosea, but he's talking to the woman as well. So let's go to Hosea chapter 1, verse 2. When the Lord began to speak by Hosea, the Lord said to Hosea, "Go, take yourself a wife of harlotry and children of harlotry, for the land has committed great harlotry by departing from the Lord." So going to that thought, I mean, how this man of God has been asked by God to marry a prostitute. So how does that work? You know, I mean, this man of God marries a prostitute, and the thoughts not only going through his mind, but through everyone else's mind around him. Is he really a man of God? But God told him to do this. I mean, how would you and I think about it if God asked us to do this? It would be crazy, right? It would be. Need a second opinion, God, right? But then you go to, well, you think about it. Throughout the Bible, God has also witnessed to women, broken women. And this woman, this prostitute that Hosea has been asked to marry, most likely has been abused, most likely has been hurt in some way or fashion, and is selling her body not just to make a living, but because possibly she wants to feel love, although that's not true love. And she's been hurt, abused. She has a feeling that maybe depression, and she is trying to get over it, but she can't. And so she continues to allow these men to abuse her until God steps in and says, "Hey, I want you to marry this man of God. Marry someone that wants to love you, wants to show you my love in such a way that you feel the love that I originally made you to be." Because she, even though her current title is a prostitute, God made her as a princess of God. God made her to be more to share His love to those around her. God had a special plan for her, but the devil came in and destroyed that plan with all of this other junk that he laid on her, whether it was abusive or whether it was hurt or whatever someone did to her to cause her to go in this direction. But then you can go over also to John chapter 8. Verses 1 through 11. And again, you see this broken woman caught in adultery. And they didn't even bother to bring the man, all right? But they found the woman caught in adultery and dragged her, again, abusing this woman, hurting this woman by church leaders, and throwing her in front of Jesus. Jesus calmly started writing as they were making their accusations. And they continued to talk. And I'm sure they said something probably like, "Are you listening, Jesus?" You know? Because he's writing on the ground. And then he speaks. Let me see here. Verse 7. So they continued asking him. He raised himself up and said to them, "He who is without sin among you, let him throw a stone at her first." Again, he stooped down and wrote on the ground. Then those who heard it, being convicted by their conscience, went out one by one, beginning with the oldest, even to the last. And Jesus was left alone and the woman standing in the midst. When Jesus had raised himself up and saw no one but the woman, he said to her, "Woman, where are those accusers of yours? Has no one condemned you?" She said, "No one, Lord." And Jesus said to her, "Neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more." Jesus wasn't there to condemn. He was here to change us, to help us, to show His love to us. Now the question is, are we willing to help those around us? Are we able to, as Christians, show His love in such a way to forgive those who have hurt us, those who have betrayed us in some way? Are we willing to be the way Jesus was and give His love to those around us and show it? Not just say, "Okay, I forgive you," and then talk behind their back or whatnot. We as Christians must show God's love in a way that no one else has seen before. We must be the lighthouse in this world. We must change. So going back to Hosea and Gomer. So the story goes where, yes, they have children together, but the children weren't always Hosea's. They were other men. So she continued to commit adultery. And then finally she left him. And continue to be more broken and more abused. Sometimes people who are abused, not just women, men too, people who are abused mentally, physically, emotionally, they go away from that safe zone, away from the people that might actually care for you, and go back to abuse, because that's all they truly knew and know. And this love, if they find it, is not familiar to them, and it's hard to reconcile that love with their past abusers. So she continues to go out and play the prostitute, and eventually she is so broken and abused that, and in trouble, that she is put on the auction block. And God says, in His amazing love, go, get her, redeem her. So you're hearing on the auction block, who bids 5 pieces of silver for this woman? And can you imagine her? She is up there. She is ashamed. Other people are watching her. Her clothing is probably torn, or scantily clad. I mean, very little clothing, most likely, in order to sell her better, right? And she's been abused more, and she's probably thinking, who is going to buy me? And who is going to be my next abuser? Who's going to hurt me again and again? But God tells Hosea to go find her and go redeem her the way I am going to redeem you, the way I am going to redeem the world. And so the auctioneers, who gives 6 pieces of silver a bid? Who gives 8 a bid? Who gives 10? And it goes higher and higher until Hosea says, I bid 15 pieces of silver. And I think it was an omer of a grain. And he won that auction and brought her home. Show love, my friends. Show your love, or not your love, because our love cannot be continual love. But ask God every day as you get on your knees in the morning to die to self daily. Ask God to show His love through you to those around you. His love is so amazing. We can only show unconditional love through Him. For those people who need it, especially, who knows, you might be the only one that will show God's love to someone today. So I challenge you to go. I challenge you to show God's love in such a way that no one knows, no one truly knows, that you will be His representative, that you will be His hands, His feet, His mouth, that God will be shown through us to the world. Well, thank you again, guys, for watching. And again, this is Gospel Nomad. Hit the like button and share. And know God loves you and has a plan for you. I hope you have a blessed rest of the day.